Hello, this is Ali welcoming you to the 2074th edition of the Enfield Talking newspaper, Dateline 17th of November 2016. The readers this week are Ali, Darren and John, with Peter on the controls. The editor was Phillip, and the production and distribution team is Jean, Lindsay and Phillip. Our title music is Country Rock Polka, composed by Pat Prilly, Fernand Bouillon, Harry Breuer, and performed by Jean-Jacques Perret, and is used with his kind permission. The local news stories that we will be reading come from our local newspapers, the Enfield Gazette and Advertiser and the Enfield Independent, and are their copyright. The events information has been collated by us from other sources. The local news headlines this week include No Site for School Yet, Poaching Gangs Alert, and Pupils Join Poignant Poppy Day Service. Before the news, we have one or two special news items and notices. First, the sunrise and sunset times for Monday the 21st of November are sunrise at 07:29 and sunset at 16:03 hours. Secondly, we would like to apologise again for the sound quality of our recording last week. Do get in touch with us to share your own news and special announcements. We love to hear from you. If you have any comments about the Enfield Talking newspaper, please phone Diane de Jersey on 020-8805-6578. She is your listener's representative and will be pleased to help you. Now, Danny will read the first item of local news.
No site for school yet. Parents are in limbo about the location of a new secondary school in Enfield. Earlier this year, the government approved Wren Academy's planning application, and Enfield Council's School Places report, out this week, makes it clear that education chiefs are relying on it to plug a black hole in provision. The Wren Academy Trust, which already runs an all-through primary and secondary school in Hilton Avenue, North Finchley, is set to open the academy in 2018. The Trust has suggested three possible sites to the government's education funding agency, the EFA, which is responsible for acquiring the site and building the school. It has said its favoured spot is open space in Enfield Road, Oakwood, but to date neither the location nor the selection criteria has been confirmed, leaving scores of parents in the dark about their children's education. Nick Dines, Conservative councillor for Chase Ward, said, "I am deeply concerned that the cabinet member responsible for secondary school provision says she is happy that she has not spoken to the Wren Academy. She is letting down parents in Chase Ward, giving it is clear that the Wren Academy is expected to fill the gap there is in school provision. Free schools and academies are state schools funded directly by central government, but run independently from the council. Aya Orphan, the council's cabinet member for education, children and services and protection, said, "I am extremely surprised that he, Nick Dines, fails to understand the very basic legislation on the role of the council in approving academy funding. The council is legally prohibited from opening a secondary school. It is the government, through its academies and free schools programme, who have approved Wren, and it is their responsibility to secure the site, and the school itself will decide its own admissions criteria. The new school will be based on Christian values and be open to the whole community, but will give preference to those living closest to it, with half the places for church-going families and the other half open places." Michael Whitworth, Executive Principal of Wren Academy Trust, said, "We expect to start the admissions process in September 2017. Parents of Year 3 and 4 children will have another choice when their children reach secondary transfer age. We are confident that the special atmosphere at Wren Academy is something parents will want for Enfield. The school will be 8-form entry with 240 places in each year group." The EFA declined to comment.
Poaching gangs alert. Gangs have been sneaking onto a river late at night to steal fish, it is claimed. Members of the River Lee Angling Club discovered the thefts after finding 4 dead fish at the end of an illegal long line, which they fear is one of 10 dotted around Enfield Lock. In England, Once a fish has been caught on a rod and line, it is unhooked before being released back to the water unharmed. But long lines are banned because they can kill or injure other wildlife, including swans, geese, ducks and moorhens. The anglers say the criminals are depriving them of their hobby and threatening fish stocks. Club secretary Richard McGarry believes the fish, including carp, bream and perch, are being sold on the black market. The 44-year-old said, "Some people have this romantic idea that poaching is carried out by an old scallywag who catches the odd rabbit, pheasant or fish for his supper. But the reality is that it is carried out by criminals, and quite often gangs, who have no consideration for the law, the environment or other waterway users. They are carrying out these crimes for financial gain." Mr McGarry, who has been a club member for 4 years, added, "We are very upset at the discovery of this illegal activity on our controlled sections of the River Lee. We are constantly trying to make improvements along the Lee for angling, and we have carried out numerous fish restockings over the last few years. It makes us angry that certain individuals or groups will spoil things for their own criminal gains. But we will continue with our efforts, and where we have sufficient evidence of wrongdoing, we will always push for prosecution." One of the lines has now been passed on to the Environment Agency, which is investigating the suspected thefts.
Pupils join poignant Poppy Day service. Pupils of Chase Community School in Enfield were among hundreds of school children who came together to mark Armistice Day on Friday. Michael Conland, 13, who laid a poppy wreath, said it was still important to remember the soldiers who died. He added, "My Nan was born just after the Second World War, and she always tells me how important it is to remember them. I'm really glad I've come here to pay my respects." The civic service of remembrance was held in St Peter and Paul's Church, Chingford.
Salute to all those who will be forever remembered. Old soldiers wore their campaign medals with pride as they marched through the streets of the borough during Sunday's Remembrance Day commemorations. Crowds lined the routes as veterans took part in parades to honour those who lost their lives in military conflicts, including both world wars. A procession of ex-servicemen and women, members of the Royal British Legion and Air and Sea Cadets, paraded to Chase Green War Memorial where, following the playing of the last post and 2 minutes silence, civic leaders, including Enfield Mayor Bernadette Lepage and Enfield North MP Joan Ryan, laid wreaths. Similar parades were held to the War Memorial at Edmonton Green and by the Royal British Legion in Southgate. An Armistice Day service held at the Garden of Remembrance in Broomfield Park, Palmer's Green, on Friday and attended by Enfield Southgate MP David Burrows, included pupils from Bowes Primary School in Bowes Road, New Southgate, and Broomfield Secondary School in Wilmer Way, Arnos Grove, reading poems by World War I poets and others they had written themselves. Brendan Farrell, chairman of the Enfield branch of the Royal British Legion, said, "Generations of both young and old came together to remember those who served or gave their lives."
No shortage of Christmas cheer at Big Switch On. Families and shoppers will be full of Yuletide cheer when Santa switches on the Christmas lights at the Palace Gardens Shopping Centre in Enfield Town on Saturday. The shopping complex is in the heart of the town, is staging a magical, fun-packed afternoon with special guest appearances and entertainment that will enthrall children and put mum and dad in a festive mood. Getting things started at 1 p.m. will be the appearance of Catboy, Gecko and Owlet from the smash hit animated children's TV show PJ Masks, the plot of which revolves around 3 6-year-olds who possess superpowers linked to their pyjamas. They will be appearing in their superhero costumes, not their Jim Jams, and will be helping Santa turn on the Christmas lights at 4:45 p.m. under a flurry of fake snow. But before then, children will be entranced by 2 beautiful and mischievous stilt-walking snow foxes called the Raiju. There will be humour from Mr. Scrooge and Mr. Scratchit in their carol-singing Christmas carriage, and stunning close-contact juggling from an ice maiden. Shoppers will also be able to take Elfie selfies on a magic mirror and get a free print to take home. I nearly read that as a free pint, so don't get too excited. At 4:30 p.m, Santa will lead the Christmas parade through Palace Gardens to the Christmas tree beside Costa, where the lights will be switched on. Palace Gardens manager Paul Duke said, "We are gearing up to a busy Christmas launch on Saturday. PJ Masks will be really popular with the youngsters, and there's lots of other great entertainment for shoppers too."
Delight for primary school over reading test results. A primary school is celebrating after being ranked in the top 8% nationally for the second year in a row. Kingfisher Hall Primary Academy in the Ryde, Ponders End, received a glowing letter of praise from the Government Minister for School Standards, Nick Gibb, congratulating the school on exemplary results. The school gained a 95% pass rate for the statutory Year 1 phonics test, assessing the reading skills of children aged 5 and 6. The test involves pupils reading 40 words aloud to their teacher. Half of the words on the test are from the dictionary and half are not, such as strom. Mr. Gibbs said, "Your school is in the top 8% of all primary schools in the country. Thank you for your vital work in this area of a child's early education, and again congratulations to you and your staff for all you have achieved." Head teacher Emma Breckenridge said she was thrilled. Reading has a huge impact on children's learning and development, which is why early decoding skills are so critical, she said. As a school rated outstanding by Ofsted, we are always striving for excellence, and we are therefore thrilled to get this national recognition again. Kingfisher Hall was opened in September 2012, the same year the phonics test was introduced nationally, under the coalition government's Free School Initiative by the Cuckoo Hall Academies Trust.
Joined up thinking as new group gets down to business. A new Enfield-based business organisation is being launched, bringing together entrepreneurs across 4 boroughs. Enterprise Enfield has joined with the North London Chamber of Commerce and formed a new organisation, the North London Chamber of Commerce and Enterprise. Based at Enfield Business Centre in Hertford Road, Ponders End, the NLCCE represents and promotes businesses across the boroughs of Enfield, Barnet, Haringey and Waltham Forest. Entrepreneurs are being urged to sign up and become members so they can benefit from business advice, networking events, newsletters and an online directory. Enfield Council's Cabinet Member for Economic Regeneration and Business, Alan Sitkin, said, "Enterprise Enfield has a long history of helping local entrepreneurs make a great success of their businesses. Leveraging North London Chamber resources is sure to enhance opportunities for local business people, and we're delighted to see this happen. Membership also brings discounts for meeting rooms and business skills seminars at Enterprise Enfield's Let's Go business hub, based at Enfield Business Centre. The North London Chamber of Commerce and Enterprise will be launched at the Business Centre on Thursday, November 24. Despina Johnson, Chief Executive of NLCCE and Enterprise Enfield, said, "Enterprise Enfield is delighted to have this opportunity to help facilitate the growth and success of even more fantastic businesses in North London, something which we have been doing for more than 30 years. Businesses interested in joining the NLCCE should call 020-8443-5457 or visit www.nlcce.co.uk.
Low-paid jobs likely to be here in Enfield. Enfield is among the worst boroughs for workers being paid below the living wage. A recent study reveals almost 1 in 5 jobs in London is classed as low pay, a slight fall compared with recent years. Around 720,000 jobs in the capital are low paid, twice as many as a decade ago, says the New Policy Institute, or NPI. Fewer than a third of part-time jobs in London were low paid in 2006, but that figure has jumped to 43%, the research found. The boroughs with the highest proportion of jobs paying below the London living wage were all in outer London, including Enfield, Bexley, Harrow, Sutton and Waltham Forest. Around 27% of low-paid jobs are in retail and wholesale, with a fifth in hotels and restaurants, says the report, funded by charitable foundation Trust for London. Adam Tinson, senior researcher at the NPI, said, "No further increase in the proportion of low-paid jobs in London is welcome. However, low pay rates are still higher than a decade ago, and particular employment sectors have a very poor record that must be addressed." Mubin Haq of Trust for London said, "London has seen a significant growth in jobs over the last few years. Unfortunately, too many are low paid. This data shows that whilst there has been a halt in the rise in low pay, there is still a long way to go to making sure Londoners are paid fairly. Nearly 3,000 employers have committed to paying a living wage, with more than 1,000 in London accredited with the Living Wage Foundation. That's a great step in the right direction, but many more need to sign up. Not only is it good for employees, but it's also good for companies, with clear evidence that retention rates improve." Child Poverty Action Group Chief Executive Alison Garnham said, "If ever there were evidence that our capital city isn't working for everyone, it's in these findings on low pay. With a fifth of London jobs now low paid, most of them done by women, it's little wonder that most children in poverty are now in working households."
Police seek suspect after bus sex attacks. Police have issued an image of a man they want to question in connection with a string of sexual assaults on women bus passengers, one of them on the Edmonton stretch of the 149 bus route. Detectives believe the suspect is responsible for carrying out at least 5 indecent assaults on women over a 6-month period between March and September this year, and have appealed for anyone who recognises him or knows his whereabouts to contact them. His first victim had just left work on March the 11th at 6 p.m, having boarded a Route 341 bus at King's Cross, headed towards Tottenham. During the journey, the suspect, who was sitting next to her, touched her leg. When the bus reached Bruce Grove, Tottenham, she switched to a 149 bound for 4 Street, Edmonton, and noticed that the man had followed her on board. Concerned, she rang her boyfriend to ask him to meet her. The suspect appeared to overhear the conversation and got off at the next stop. 4 months later, the same man is suspected of committing a similar sexual assault on a 27-year-old woman on the N18 night bus route between Trafalgar Square and Harrow in northwest London, and 3 further separate assaults between July and September on women aged 21, 27 and 31 in Brent in northwest London on the 226 bus route. The man is described as being of Middle Eastern appearance, aged between 30 to 35 years old, of slim build and about 5 foot 7 inches tall. Anyone who recognises the man in the CCTV image or has information that could help the police investigation is being asked to contact Detective Constable Teresa Moore on 07920 590 261 or to remain anonymous to call Crime Stoppers on 0800 555 111.
Government urged to put money into train service. The Chancellor is being urged to invest in the West Anglia rail line, which runs through the eastern side of Enfield, to help boost the economy by £15 billion a year. Enfield North MP Joan Ryan wants the government to give the green light to investment in the service from Liverpool Street to Cambridge, which she said could help Enfield thrive. Her call comes ahead of Phillip Hammond's first autumn statement next Wednesday, November 23. She wants the government to invest in the multi-million-pound transport scheme. She told a Westminster debate that she backed the business case for more cash to improve capacity and performance on the line serving passengers along the London-Stansted-Cambridge corridor. The West Anglia Task Force estimated that upgrading the section of track which runs from Coppermill Junction in Walthamstow through Enfield, including stations at Ponders End, Brimsdown and Enfield Lock, towards Broxbourne with 4 tracks instead of 2, could boost the region's economy by £15 billion a year. Ms Ryan told MPs on Tuesday last week, "Many of my constituents who use the Abellio Greater Anglia train service on the West Anglia Main Line face cancellations, delays and poor service on a daily basis." She said 4 tracking as a precursor to Crossrail 2 will radically improve their experience of the railways and provide an essential upgrade to our borough's infrastructure. Ms Ryan predicted the investment would give Enfield a boost, explaining new businesses will be attracted to the borough and those businesses which are already here will want to stay and grow, and it will be a fantastic opportunity to unlock housing and business potential. The task force, which includes Enfield Council leader Doug Taylor, wants to see faster journey times on routes to Cambridge and Stansted, 4 tracks by the mid-2020s and improved services. It set out its vision in its final report entitled A Strong Case for Investment in Rail to Support Growth, published last month. It also wants investment in the routes as a vital precursor to Crossrail 2, which would link Wimbledon in South London with Tottenham and New Southgate stations by 2033.
And carrying on with that theme, another line, commuter concern at timetable change plan. Commuters in Enfield have launched a petition against timetable changes which would see their train service dramatically cut at peak times. Grange Park residents are furious over Great Northern's proposals to slash the number of trains by a third during the morning rush hour. Nicola Jefferson from Grange Park, who started the petition, said, "I work in Victoria and use that service every day, along with lots of others. Not a lot of people know about these proposals, so we have launched a petition to give people a voice and to raise awareness." Grange Park Station is between Winchmore Hill and Enfield Chase stations on the Great Northern Line and, if the changes are approved, it would have a reduced peak hour service from 2018. Mrs Jefferson added, "It doesn't seem logical to reduce the number of trains in areas where there has been a huge increase in the number of commuters. We are asking that they increase the number of trains in the mornings. According to National Rail, journeys at Grange Park have risen from 182,000 in 2004 to 405,000 last year. Govia Thameslink Railway, which operates Great Northern, is having a timetable shake-up to improve services from Moorgate to Gordon Hill and on the Hertford North Loop. The company said that even though it was suggesting a morning peak hour reduction, there would be more trains to Grange Park throughout the day and on Saturdays. Great Northern spokesman Roger Perkins said, "This proposal for the morning peak was based on our understanding of passenger demand and the need to spread train loadings out across services that have different station stopping patterns. It was also suggested as a way to help introduce the overall increase of trains into and out of Moorgate at the very busiest times of the day, allow us to run a third more trains on the Hertford Loop, and reduced journey times for those travelling from north of Gordon Hill, and also to ensure that these services do not get too overcrowded." However, the consultation is just that, a consultation, and we will be reviewing everything people are telling us. We want our passengers to help us shape their future train service, which we intend to improve for as many people as possible.
We're no pushover. Campaigners' joy as Tottenham Tower is rejected. Defiant neighbours say Tottenham is no pushover after plans for a high-rise waterside development were rejected. People fought tooth and nail to stop the Canals and River Trust from building 505 new homes in a monstrous 21-floor high building at Hale Wharf. At the time, Joanne McCartney, Greater London Authority member for Enfield and Haringey and Deputy to Mayor Sadiq Khan, called the plans clearly unacceptable. The development would have included a new bridge across the River Lee, better pedestrian links, upgrading access for commercial barges, including canal wall repairs, and more access to the Paddock Community Nature Park. The plans had been recommended for approval by Haringey Borough Council's planners, but the proposals were rejected by 7 votes to 1. Quinton Given of Ferry Lane said, "This has nothing to do with property prices. We keep stressing, we're not opposed to development here. It's just they would have been very ugly and extremely tall towers that would ruin the area. Tottenham is no longer a pushover. Haringey must now work with the community on a better way forward to secure development of this site." The 62-year-old, who worked for Friends of the Earth before retiring, has vowed to carry on the fight if the developers go to appeal or the decision is called in by Mayor of London Sadiq Khan. Michael Orr, Development Director at Waterside Places, said, "We're disappointed with the outcome of the Hale Wharf Planning Committee. Whilst this is a setback, we remain committed to the redevelopment of the site and are working with our partners to consider how we take the scheme forward."
Here come the hot steppers. Models took to the catwalk last week, but it wasn't in New York, Paris or Milan. Volunteers and patients from Enfield's Nightingale Cancer Support Centre in Lancaster Road took to the stage in their own fashion show to raise much-needed funds. A total of 40 women, men and children donned trendy outfits and accessories at Enfield Baptist Church in Cecil Road, provided by Pearson's department store in Enfield Town. Pearson sponsored the evening event last Thursday, and the models wore a range of clothes and accessories from the store's new winter collection. They were also treated to a special makeover and had their hair styled by Hudson & Kemp hairdressers in Chaseside, Enfield. "It was lovely," said Lisa Barker, fundraising manager at Nightingale Cancer Support Centre. "They closed the hairdressers in the afternoon so they could style the models' hair for the show and made them feel very special," she explained. About 200 guests attended the event and were treated to a champagne and canapé reception before they picked up tips from the show for their own winter wardrobe. Former patient at the centre, Sarah Wackett, 46, who is now in remission, provided entertainment with her jazz quintet band, Mojo 5. Lisa said the fashion show brought volunteers and patients together. She said they made some fantastic friends, and it was great watching them up and down the catwalk, growing in confidence and having fun. A total of £4,500 was raised from raffle and ticket sales and will help the charity, which relies on voluntary donations to provide its services in the community. For members who come to the centre, taking part in the fashion show was their way of giving back. Everyone donated a lot of their time, added Lisa.
Police launched their Christmas tree appeal. A plea to provide Enfield's 352 children in care with a present to unwrap on Christmas Day was made by the borough's cops this week as the Metropolitan Police launched its annual Christmas tree appeal. Enfield's Borough Commander, Detective Chief Superintendent Ian Raphael, urged residents to make a difference by getting involved and donating or pledging a gift for a looked-after child. He helped launch the borough's appeal at Enfield Police Station in Baker Street, where a decorated Christmas tree in the reception area is the drop-off point for the public's donated gifts. Residents can also drop a gift, big or small, into Edmonton Police Station in 4 Street. "We launched the appeal only last Tuesday, and already it has proven a success," said Mr. Raphael. "It has my wholehearted support." His colleague, Jackie Penn, Enfield's Police Safer Schools Sergeant, said police had been bowled over by the kindness and generosity of the community in previous years.
Street has the hump over speed bump. Neighbours say a narrow speed bump is a complete waste of taxpayers' money and does not slow down speeding drivers using their street as a rat run. The residents of Luton Road in Walthamstow say the hump, which is barely the width of a car, does nothing to calm rat-run traffic. Waltham Forest Council built the hump after mini Holland Road closures were imposed to stop drivers from bombing down the one-way street at top speed. However, householders claim the speed hump is so small that car wheels can easily avoid it, and their pleas for the council to replace the hump have fallen on deaf ears. The only solution is creating a plastic speed bump the full width of the road, insists resident Jim Fagan.
Hopeless cookery is not bad enough. After weeks of fierce competition, A midwife from Potter's Bar was selected from hundreds of entrants to go head-to-head in the final of a contest to find the country's most hopeless cook. Marina Wells, 53, said, "My dinner guests were once left with a sour taste in their mouths when I was over-enthusiastic with the lemon zest in a lemon meringue pie, and it was completely inedible. The competition has hopefully taught me how to adapt quantities accordingly in my bid to become the next Nigella Lawson." However, despite her best efforts, Marina failed to be crowned winner of the Kenwood annual Disaster Chef competition. Celebrity chef Raymond Blanc was among the judges at the final cooking challenge, which took place at the famous Avikia restaurant in London earlier this month.
Underground strikes threat. Tube commuters face the threat of disruption in the run-up to Christmas as hundreds of London Underground workers vote on strike action. Members of the Transport Salaried Staff Association, TSSA, have been balloted over industrial action in a dispute over safety. The union claims its members have been subjected to increased threats and abuse since a programme of ticket office closures started. A survey for the white-collar TSSA found most of the 540 staff felt less safe since they moved from ticket offices onto station concourses. The Fit for the Future programme was introduced by former London Mayor Boris Johnson, and his successor Sadiq Khan has ordered a review of the ticket office closures. TSSA leader Manuel Cortes said, "My members say Fit for the Future working practices are fit for nothing and should be scrapped." The Rail, Maritime and Transport, that's the RMT union, has also balloted its members over possible strike action.
Detective guilty of verbally abusing suspect. A male police officer who verbally attacked a man during an arrest has been reprimanded and given a final warning for failing to meet the required standards of conduct. The Enfield detective was found guilty of using abusive and insulting language during the arrest of a suspect. A disciplinary hearing heard that the offence occurred as the officer searched the man he had arrested on suspicion of handling stolen goods. However, the disciplinary panel found the detective not guilty of encouraging an officer to lie to the custody sergeant when booking the suspect into custody. He was also cleared of dishonestly asking a police officer to fill out a stop and search form. All the allegations related to an incident on January the 6th, 2015. The disciplinary hearing was held behind closed doors on Wednesday, November the 9th. The Metropolitan Police refused to release any more details of the case when asked by the Enfield Independent.
TV star to sing at hospice concert, and Enfield choir will also take to the stage. An Enfield choir and an X Factor television star are taking to the stage for a North London festive fundraising tradition. 17-year-old singer Luana Martinez, who made it through to the 6-chair challenge on this year's ITV signing competition, has been a lifelong supporter of Noah's Ark Children's Hospice and will be the headline act at its Precious Moments concert. The event brings together school and community choirs to raise money for the charity's Christmas appeal. The concert will take place with different lineups at 2 p.m. and 7:30 p.m. in St James's Church, Muswell Hill, on Saturday, November 26. Joining the school choirs will be a range of amateur and professional singing groups, musicians and soloists performing a mix of traditional Christmas songs, West End favourites and pop classics. The Enfield Harmony Singers will open the matinee performance with the song Every Praise. Choir director Jenny Latouche said, "We are very excited to be part of this event and to be bringing some joy to such a positive organisation. Rehearsals are going very well. We're looking forward to singing the gospel song, My Help, an extremely positive song, giving hope even when we might feel there isn't any."
Heavy metal drummer writes World War II book. In the wake of Remembrance Sunday, spare a thought also for the Merchant Navy, more than 36,000 of whose civilian personnel died in World War II. Most of the fatalities were caused by the German U-boats, which were dubbed wolf packs due to their travelling in predatory groups that stalked the cold waters of the world's oceans. Not so much is known or written about the losses suffered by the Germans in the U-boat war. In fact, some 28,000 out of the 40,000 German submariners perished at sea. Author Lawrence Patterson has recently reprinted his fourth book, Hitler's Grey Wolves, U-Boats in the Indian Ocean. The New Zealand-born writer who moved over to Palmer's Green in Enfield to pursue a second career as a heavy metal drummer in 1988 has written 14 books about the German forces in the World War II. Lawrence says, "I developed an interest in war while I was growing up in New Zealand and listened to the stories of both of my grandfathers who had served in World Wars I and II. One was in the Scandinavian Army in the World War I, and my other grandfather was in the Royal Navy in the Second. I always heard how it was the Germans who were the bad guys. I believe it was never quite as simple as that, as there are no good guys or bad guys, they are all fighting for a bad cause." Lawrence, who left school at 16 years of age and gleaned all his knowledge about the U-boats from independent research, admits he is already writing his next book, which should be out in 2018. He is often inspired by the architecture of London, as it holds so much history. He says, "London was heavily involved in World War II, and a lot of the buildings around the city show this in their modern, particularly in the East." Sorry, I don't know what he means by this. I'll just read it as it is. "Particularly in the East, after being rebuilt due to the bomb damage, so the legacy still lives on. I've also met some incredible people through writing these books, and ultimately how they are filled with so many interesting human stories of individual people who were involved. I find it really humbling to meet those that fought, as they are so heroic in their own way." Hitler's Grey Wolves, U-Boats in the Indian Ocean is available to buy on Amazon.
Discuss Alzheimer's and taxes. Over 50s who have questions about tax and Alzheimer's disease are invited to pop along to its next drop-in session. Enfield's Over 50s Forum has introduced two new advisors, the Alzheimer's Society's Remy Oke and George Tolu from the Society of Later Life Advisors, to help visitors to its regular advice sessions. Mr. Tolu will be available twice a month, and Ms. Oki, who has spent 18 years studying Alzheimer's disease, will be at the next session on Monday. The meetings are open to all Enfield residents who prefer receiving personal help face-to-face. Sessions are held at the Dugdale Centre in Enfield Town every Monday from 10 a.m. to noon.
Mitzvah Volunteers, staff and residents enjoy a dance. Volunteers brought joy and dancing to a home for the elderly with a tea and dance event. The tea event was the first of this year's Mitzvah Day initiatives and took place at Jewish Care's Morris and Vivian Wohl campus in Golders Green, Barnet. Attended by more than 90 people, including residents, volunteers and staff, the event saw 15 young professionals dancing with and serving tea for residents, including some Holocaust survivors. The volunteering group was led by 32-year-old Simon Murray as part of the Mitzvah Day Active Initiative, which brings young adults together to get involved in hands-on social action. He said, "Everyone had such an incredible time. There was such a party atmosphere, and we loved chatting, singing and dancing." The tea embodied the Mitzvah Day theme of bringing people together, and it's a great chance to experience the feel-good factor of getting involved in social action. Mitzvah Day takes place in November each year. For more information, email dan@mitzvahday.org.uk or call 020 3747 9960.
Dangerous driver jailed after fatality. A man whose careless driving left a motorcyclist dead has been jailed. Adam Yakichi of Gloucester Road, Walthamstow, pleaded guilty to causing death by dangerous driving and will spend 8 years behind bars. The 28-year-old was driving through Millmead Road, Tottenham, when his smart car crashed into a moped trying to turn right. Naeem Anjum Tahir, aged 41, from Waltham Forest, was pronounced dead at the scene after the crash on December the 16th, 2014, at 7:45 p.m. The force of the crash caused Yakichi's car to career off the road and into a tree. He stopped at the scene and was taken to hospital with minor injuries. Detective Sergeant Jane Mallet from the Serious Collision Investigation Unit said, "A brief moment of carelessness or lack of attention can result in the tragic loss of life. Yakichi's driving that day fell far below what anyone would expect from a person driving on our roads. I would like to take this opportunity to urge motorists to take care whilst driving and always be on the lookout for motorcyclists."
Police probe shooting of 22-year-old. A 22-year-old man was gunned down on an Edmonton street in what is believed to have been a drive-by shooting. Armed police from the Met Police's Trident Firearms team, which deals with gang-related gun crime, attended the incident outside a parade of shops in Mottingham Road at 5 p.m. last Tuesday. The victim was discovered with a gunshot wound to his leg. He was taken by ambulance to the Royal London Hospital in East London. His injuries were described by police as not life-threatening. A neighbour who lives close to the scene of the shooting, who didn't want to be named, said, "I heard that 2 people on motorbikes drove up and aimed shots at somebody. We heard that he was walking along the parade." Police have arrested 3 people in connection with the incident. 2 of them, both 18, were arrested on suspicion of possessing an offensive weapon and have been bailed to return to Wood Green Police Station on December the 20th. Police are seeking 2 other men, aged 19 and 20, in relation to an offence of grievous bodily harm with intent. Witnesses or anyone with information are being asked to call 101 or contact Crime Stoppers anonymously on 0800 555 111.
Rotary thanks pupils with special award. Children, teachers and parents were given a surprise this Armistice Day, a special award from a Rotary club. Bush Hill Park Primary School were given the award from Bush Hill Park Rotary Club to recognise the dedication and support pupils have shown. The presentation to head teacher Anna Theodosiou was made by Rotarian Ernie Russell, past president of the club. The certificate is one of the highest awards given by Rotary International.
Criticism triggers rethink on library. Flawed plans for the new Enfield Highway Library are being reconsidered following a wave of criticism about the design. The detailed plans unveiled at a meeting of Enfield Council on Wednesday last week show that the library provision at the Hertford Road site would be slashed by 75%. Instead, the borough's main sexual health clinic will be sharing the ground floor with the adult and children's library. And there will be a drug and alcohol treatment centre for young people on the first floor. Enfield Highway Library was closed in May to be remodelled and to make way for a public health services department. The changes were part of plans by the council to raise money by allowing other businesses and organisations to share library space and pay part of the leases in the wake of government cuts. Shadow Cabinet Member for Leisure and Libraries, Dogan Delman, said, "The plans were so poorly thought through that I could not believe the council was bringing them forward. How can it be right that the size of the library is cut by 75% with no justification? It's simply not good enough. There are also clear concerns that have to be answered about placing a sexual health clinic next to a children's library. People living in Enfield Highway deserve better." The 4 biggest libraries, Enfield Town, Edmonton Green, Palmer's Green and Ordnance Road Community Hub, will become flagship libraries and will extend their opening hours to 7 days a week while undergoing redevelopments. A spokesman for the council said no planning application has been received or withdrawn from Enfield Highway Library. The existing plans for Enfield Highway Library are being reconsidered and will be referred back to Cabinet for a final decision.
GPs' surgeries recognised for providing online data. A health watchdog has launched an award for doctors' surgeries in Enfield, which provide useful healthcare information online while helping to save the NHS money. Patient group Healthwatch Enfield has awarded its new quality standard to 35 surgeries which offer health information online to help patients save time and cut costs. The service can help save up to £29 per patient if they can get key information online rather than contacting the surgery, according to NHS England figures, with online access costing just 8p per patient. Healthwatch Enfield joined forces with surgeries and patients over the last 2 years to improve the online information about primary care services available in the borough. The health group said that 2 years ago, only 2 practices would have earned this quality mark. Practices were encouraged to include details of out-of-hours care, complaints procedures, and details about patient participation groups online. The practice website must also be included on the NHS Choices listing and give links to online repeat prescription services and how to book an interpreter for patients. Over the last 2 years, the number of practices with a website increased by 1/3, and details about interpreters went up by 69%. Volunteers did 3 audits of the websites over the last 2 years. Healthwatch Enfield boss Patricia Machinska said, "We are delighted by the response we received from the primary care providers to improve their online information provision." She said it helped free up staff for more face-to-face contact with patients. If it wasn't for the commitment of the GP practices, Healthwatch Enfield would not be celebrating the launch of its quality standard, she added. We are hopeful that the relationships we have established with primary care providers will contribute to further improvements to make Enfield the best place for people to access services. Emma Fridin, Healthwatch Enfield's Policy Insight and Research Manager, said, "Online booking services are very beneficial and useful for patients." Healthwatch Enfield is now working with 15 other practices to help them with their online information.
A Bright Future. Rachel Russell interviews self-help motivational author Nathan Buckman. Author Nathan Buckman is on a mission to raise the self-esteem and motivation of people in Tottenham with his book The Bright Side, The Little Book of Wisdom, which was published in January. Nathan has lived in Tottenham his whole life and says he has seen a lot of young people struggle with self-belief, which led him to publish a collection of his own favourite thought-provoking quotes, as well as those written by others to help give the community some guidance. The 25-year-old, who is currently studying for a BSc Honours in Business Management at the University of East London, explains how his passion for reading helped inspire his writing. Can you tell readers about your book? A majority of young people in the community lack the self-esteem, positivity and the motivation to push themselves further in life. This is a major issue, especially in the Tottenham area. A lot of them don't have anybody who could guide and encourage them. Hence I wrote this book. This book teaches people how to believe in themselves and discover their true potential. It is written in a clear and concise manner, so it can easily be read by anybody, regardless of how intellectual they are. The book is called The Bright Side, spelt B-R-I-E-T, because my stage name is Brightling. I added a twist to the usual spelling of the Bright Side adage by swapping that with Bright, B-R-I-E-T. Why were you inspired to write the book? I was inspired because I read a lot of motivational and inspirational books. When I began to see life in a more positive light, I decided that I wanted to share my thoughts as they may help other people who read the book. Have you had your own issues with self-esteem, or did any friends or relatives inspire you with their experiences? Yes, I used to have low esteem, and I gradually built it up with the support of friends and family, and also reading self-help books. My friends and a few of my relatives inspired me as they had their own businesses, and they encouraged me to believe that anything can be done if you put your mind to it. Can you give some examples of how your writing is motivational? Any quotes or snippets you can share with readers? You need that one good partner who will complete you and put you on the right path. It's near enough impossible to go about life trying to succeed. 2 people make a complete person. A lot of people doubt me. That's my motivation. We think that forgiveness is weakness, but it's absolutely not. It takes a very strong person to forgive. Have you had any positive response from people who have felt motivated by the book? Yes. People said it has changed the way they perceived life, and it drastically increased their wisdom and confidence. It also encouraged them to read more inspirational books. How long did it take you to write? A month. Did you have to do much research? Quite a bit. I tend to read a lot, so making references wasn't a problem for me. Have you written any other books before, or is this your first one? This is my first one. Are you an author full-time, or do you also have another day job? I'm a part-time author, but I currently attend university. What do you like to do in your spare time? I like to read, write, make music and go to the gym, and do graphic design. I also designed the book cover myself. I'm also a youth leader in my church. What books do you like to read? Motivational, self-help, business books and biographies. The books I've read recently are The 50th Law by 50 Cent and Robert Greene, Do You by Russell Simmons, Strong Men in Tough Times by Edwin Louis Cole, Business Nightmares by Rachel Elnor, Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway by Susan Jeffers, Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki, and The Way I See It by Alan Sugar. The Bright Side can be purchased on Amazon and eBay.
Art in the Trash. Artist A.J. Trashy is returning to the gallery at the Dugdale Centre with a second exhibition of his extraordinary miniature works after debuting his first solo exhibition called Sugar Trashy 2 years ago. It's going to be fabulous, gigantic, and quite small and tiny, the artist says of his new show on Facebook. AJ, real name Alex Tracy, is from Tufnell Park and is also colourblind, which leads him to use bright, bold colours in his work. He paints on found objects and things that will be discarded and uses as many images in the piece as possible to create a busy and bright effect. AJ is self-taught and is part of a collective of naive art makers with little or no contact within the mainstream art world or institutions, whose outpourings often illustrate extreme mental states, unconventional ideas, or elaborate fantasy worlds. When he first started out, AJ painted on napkins, sugar wrappers, and tea bags. Then he widened his scope to create miniature scenarios on other found and used objects. He mainly relies on his photographic memory and uses things he sees in the outside world as a basis to incorporate ideas. AJ's passion was first developed while he was growing up in North London. His Aunt Josie used to look after him and gave him various art projects from the age of 3. He was also looked after by his grandma, who used to take him around Camden, Kentish Town and Archway. A lot of what he saw in those early days still inspires his work. AJ's work is also on display at the bookshop in Hoxton in the East End, where visitors can also find copies of his book. Curator Sonoko Abuchi, who is also the set designer for Millfield Theatre's pantomime each year, says over the past 2 years, AJ has been striving to create work that is ever smaller and finer. The finer his art becomes, the longer it takes to produce, and the larger the work looms in his imagination. It is almost like a meditation with paint, with many characters that appear again and again in the works, including Mickey and Marilyn. The Incredible Shrinking Man exhibition may be visited at Thomas Hardy House, London Road, Enfield, EN2 6DS, until Saturday, January the 7th, and it's from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. Details are on 020-8807-6680 or email dugdalecentre.co.uk.
Campaigners welcome Mansion's inclusion in post-war drama. Campaigners hoping to open a museum at Trent Park have welcomed the Mansion's starring role in a new BBC TV drama from acclaimed director Stephen Polyakov. The Trent Park Mansion features in the 7-part post-war thriller Close to the Enemy, which is centred on a scramble to recruit a top German scientist to help the RAF build the jet engine. The first episode was screened last Thursday. Mr. Polyakov said the initial idea for the series came when I was finding out about all these scientists being grabbed literally off the streets of Germany on an industrial scale by the Allies at the end of the war. He added, some were Nazis guilty of serious crimes, but they were given new identities by the Allies. Trent Park is shown in the drama as a place where wartime secrets are concealed, although it was not used as a location. Its real history as a listening post has only recently been revealed. Recording equipment was concealed in the rooms where top-ranking German prisoners of war were held. It is rumoured that Hitler's one-time number 2, Rudolf Hess, was held there, but government papers about this time in Britain remain classified. The team behind a planned museum at the site, as part of a proposed housing development, said it could help put it on the map. Jason Charalambous, who chairs the new Trent Park Museum Trust, said, it absolutely helps having a director the calibre of Stephen Polyakov feature Trent Park. It highlights the historical significance and raises people's awareness of the house. He said he planned to get in touch with the award-winning director and invite him to learn more about the planned museum. The drama is set in 1946 and stars Jim Sturgis as intelligence officer Callum Ferguson. He has orders to persuade Dieter Köhler, played by August Diehl, to work for Britain. However, Kathy Griffiths, played by Phoebe Fox, from the War Crimes Office, is keen to get her hands on files from Trent Park, which could reveal that Mr. Köhler might have a darker past. She is fobbed off by Brigadier Wainwright, played by Robert Glenister, who is overseeing the wholesale destruction of cartloads of records at the mansion. Enfield Council hosted a public planning meeting at Highlands School in World's End Lane, Winchmore Hill, on Thursday the 17th, for those attending to learn more about the Berkeley Homes plan for the site.
MP uses Grease song in campaign on boundaries. An MP has proved he is hopelessly devoted to a campaign to stop Enfield from being carved up. The politician has been parading the streets blaring Grease characters Sandy and Danny's anthem, We Go Together, to fight off plans to change the boundaries. Enfield Southgate could be split 5 ways as part of the Conservative government's proposals to change electoral boundaries across England. Mr Burrows is backing the campaign group Save Our Southgate to stop the borough from being splintered. He said the Boundary Commission has a bad proposal to put Palmer's Green in Edmonton, and the Labour Party has an even worse one to put Palmer's Green in Haringey. Palmer's Green has strong historic and community links to the old borough of Southgate, which should be respected and maintained. As the Grease lyrics say, we go together. Proposals would see Grange going to Enfield North and Southgate, Southgate Green and Winchmore Hill becoming part of a new Finchley and Southgate constituency. Cockfosters would go to Chipping Barnet, Palmer's Green would become part of Edmonton, and Bowes would be part of Hornsey and Wood Green. Plans to move Palmer's Green to Edmonton were successfully fought off several years ago. The Tory party's counter-proposal retains all of Enfield Southgate wards, but adds the Bush Hill Park ward. The MP wants to keep the existing wards together because of the strong local ties that exist between them. A public meeting to discuss the plans was held at 8 p.m. on November 15 at the Intimate Theatre in Palmer's Green. The Boundary Commission's consultation is open until December 5 and can be found via www.bce2018.org.uk. To sign the petition, visit www.tiny.cc/Save Our Southgate.
Charities Trip to Gardens. Capel Manor College was the venue for the annual outing of the Southgate Homebound and Disabled Association. The charity, now in its 59th year, organises transport for elderly and disabled people who find it hard to get out, and runs monthly club nights, annual trips and parties. Members were given a tour of the gardens and animal enclosures at Capel Manor in Ballsmore Lane, Enfield, followed by afternoon tea in the 18th century manor house. Chairman Ian Woodall said, "The annual outing is a big part of our calendar, and the members are always excited to visit somewhere new. In the past, we've been on boat trips and have visited cathedrals. This year, we decided to take in the college's beautiful gardens. Many of our members either require a wheelchair or can walk only short distances, but we were lucky to have a number of volunteers who ensured that everyone enjoyed the afternoon." The monthly meetings are held at Christ Church near the Green, Southgate, and entertainment includes singing, music, groups and talks. Membership is free and is open to anyone from the Southgate area. The organisation relies on support from volunteers and welcomes anyone who can spare a couple of hours to come on a Friday evening. Mr. Woodall added, "We exist through donations of time and money, and we all want to make a difference to others who will benefit. To sign up as a member or volunteer, contact Mr. Woodall on 07505 120 516.
College welcomes a trio of monkeys. An Enfield college has welcomed 3 new additions to their animal care course, a trio of monkeys. The Marmozets, named Rattler, Basset and Red, will spend their first Christmas in their new purpose-built enclosure, which is part of the Animal Management Centre at Capel Manor College. The Marmozets join Capel's growing animal collection, which includes more than 260 animals, birds, reptiles and insects. Deputy head of the college, Malcolm Goodwin, said, "These monkeys are really well looked after by our students and play a vital role in their personal and professional development."
Appeal for Mayor to help city renters with nightmare problems. 9 out of 10 North London private renters are suffering serious problems and need help to stand up to landlords. A new survey reveals the huge amount of people forced to spend to have a roof over their heads every month, while 70% of tenants complained landlords did not carry out necessary repairs and maintenance on their properties. With many tenants spending an average of 44% of their pay on covering their rent, most people in Enfield and Haringey said struggling to afford rent increases was the worst problem. According to the What Are London Renters Thinking report, more than half of the tenants surveyed said their landlords also invaded their privacy on a regular basis by coming into their homes without permission. This was the highest percentage in London, compared with a city average of 43%. The survey included anonymous comments left by renters, leaving only their postcodes. One Southbury tenant wrote, "The rent goes up across the whole borough at the same time, so it's impossible to find somewhere more affordable when the rent goes up. Also, there is no warning that the rent will be going up. The electrics in my flat are dangerous, and the fuse blows every time I put in a new kitchen bulb. The water is heated with an immersion heater that has broken countless times. I think it is a fire risk because the socket gets hot when the heater is on and I see sparks when it turns off." Another tenant said ex-landlord knew the place was damp and we had to keep windows open all year round. We closed all the windows when we locked up for the last time. They didn't check the property for over a month and by then the place was black and mouldy throughout, so they kept almost all of our £900 deposit. I think we got £180 back. Renting in London is a joke. They just get away with it because they know renters are fighting each other to get the better of the properties. It's a complete nightmare. Greater London Authority member Sian Berry, who commissioned the report and claims to have rented in London for 20 years, called for more support from the government to renters. She said, "In this report, I'm recommending that the Mayor stands up for London's private renters and supports them in standing up for themselves. He should provide practical help, such as office space and seed funding, to help found an independent organisation to represent renters in our city."
All Saints offers cold comfort for homeless. As the temperature takes a nosedive, rough sleepers can take shelter by spending the night in church. All Saints in Church Street, Edmonton, is taking part in the Winter Night Shelter scheme to provide food and shelter for homeless people. It is one of 7 churches in the borough operating a shelter which will be run for 13 weeks from January the 4th. Parishioner and one of the 2 coordinators, David Baton, said last year was the first year we did it here and it was a real eye-opener. People were apprehensive about what it would involve. You tend to think the guests will be men in rags who have drink problems, but they're people like you and me who have fallen on hard times for whatever reason. We all became really close, and by the end of the 3 months it was quite upsetting when it all came to an end. Rough sleepers have the option of going to a crisis charity centre at Christmas, so the All Saints Winter Night Shelter begins in January, when many are back on the streets. Guests are referred by outside agencies. They can't just turn up at the door and must be free of drugs and drink when they are there. The men and women are given a home-cooked evening meal and then chat with the volunteers before turning in for the night on inflatable beds with clean sheets. The next morning there's breakfast, things they don't get sleeping on the streets. Fellow coordinator Anne-Marie Sanderson said, "There's so much stigma involved with homeless people, but a lot of the people here last year had jobs and were really struggling to survive after being kicked out of their private rented accommodation. It makes you realise it really can happen to anybody at any time. I have a support network and could move in with family or friends if I lost my house, but a lot of people don't have that support." Guests are encouraged to save half their income, if they have jobs, while staying at the shelter and are helped by the Pillion Trust, an anti-poverty charity which tries to break the cycle and get them back on their feet. Anne-Marie added, "You can't solve the problem, but by volunteering you are doing something tangible to help. A lot of the guests spend all day every day on the street and have nowhere to go. It must wear you down, never sleeping properly, always watching your back, so this is a slice of normality, a chat if they want to, some food, and somewhere safe to sleep." Volunteers are split half and half between people who are parishioners and those who are not. They set up the beds, do the laundry, cook and spend time with guests, and the night shelter needs more of them. To volunteer, please email ASN, then the figure 9, nightshelter@gmail.com.
All in the spirit of jazz. Different strokes for ace drummer Steve Taylor could have seen him follow another career path as a tap dancer. The drumming phenomenon, who performs with his 16-piece Steve Taylor Big Band Explosion at Enfield's Dugdale Centre on Thursday, November the 24th, used to be a champion tap dancer as a child. He revealed to Online's Jazz Bible all about jazz. Both activities require rhythm and coordination to produce a percussive sound, but it was always going to be the drums for Steve, who from the age of 6 was raised on the jazz greats Buddy Rich and Louis Bellson. The band, one of the hottest on the London jazz scene, features in the Dugdale's regular Ziggy's World Jazz Club evening. Steve has worked with jazz singer Ian Shaw, acclaimed composer and musician Nitin Soy, and even Hollywood movie legend Kevin Spacey. With his virtuoso drumming, sublime vocals from Josie Frater, award-winning saxophonists Vasilis Xenopoulos and Phil Meadows, plus a cutting-edge horn crew, the band performs an electrifying mix of contemporary swing jazz, Latin, and funk fusion, composed and arranged by the beat master himself.
Cricket Chair Pen's Guide. Book raises funds for skin cancer charity. Daniel Whiting is the author of the definitive guide to club cricket, which has reached #1 on cricket Kindles from Amazon since its release in July this year, and a portion of the profits are being donated to Melanoma UK. Dan says of the book it is written in a satirical fashion and has a foreword by Yorkshire opening bowler Jack Brooks. The cover shows the Walker cricket ground in Southgate. Dan, 46, was raised in East Barnet and works in legal recruitment. Cricket is more than just a hobby, however. He says, I've been involved in cricket virtually all of my life. I'm chairman of the Southgate Adelaide Cricket Club in Waterfall Road, London N14. I recently retired from playing, having been there for more than 30 years. A few years ago, I started a blog called The Middle Stump, which has 14,000 followers now at The Middle Stump on Twitter, and this has led to a publishing contract along with regular features in the Cricket paper, which is the largest selling cricket paper in the UK. Dan also does some commentary for Guerrilla Cricket and has taken a stage show called Pushing the Boundaries around the UK, interviewing cricketers and raising funds for Melanoma UK. He adds, I'm currently working on another cricket project which I'm trying to get out before Christmas. You could say I'm immersed in the game. The book is based on people that I have played with and against over a lifetime in cricket. Somerset County Cricket Club chairman Andy Nash tweeted that it would make a great stocking filler.
Endoscopy facility opens at hospital. Thousands more patients will receive endoscopic examinations for the diagnosis and treatment of cancer after a new facility was launched at Chase Farm Hospital. The new service will be available for a year at the hospital in the Ridgeway, Enfield, while the endoscopy facilities are refurbished at North Middlesex University Hospital in Stirling Way, Edmonton. Endoscopy examination is a non-surgical procedure involving the use of a flexible tube which has a light and camera on the end and allows a patient's digestive tract to be seen on a TV monitor. The facility is also used for diagnosing and treating other gastrointestinal diseases. Patients will be seen in the surgery centre at Chase Farm by a team of up to 30 doctors, nurses and staff. About 7,500 endoscopy examinations had been carried out at North Middlesex, and it is hoped that the number will rise to 10,000 with the new service being offered at Chase Farm. Claire Lloyd, Senior Project Manager at North Middlesex University Hospital, said, "We will continue to see the most complex patients, suspect cancer patients, and patients who need hospital transport at North Middlesex. However, apart from these, patients who live in North Enfield will benefit from having a service that is closer to their home."
Aim high, Amici urges youngsters. Standing 6 foot 9 inches tall in his stockinged feet, former star of American basketball John Amici is a towering presence. And the first black British player to have a successful career in the sport in the US, as well as the first to openly admit he is gay, made a big impression when he visited an Enfield school last week to give sixth formers a motivational talk. The students at Kingsmead Secondary School in Southbury Road listened intently as the 45-year-old, who retired from the National Basketball Association in 2003, having played 2 seasons with Florida team Orlando Magic, turning down a reputed $20 million offer to join Los Angeles Lakers, spoke about the key qualities to achieve great things. Since leaving the sport, he has trained as a psychologist and offers performance coaching and mentoring, as well as basketball training to hopeful youngsters. His visit last Wednesday was just hours after the US presidential election result, and he started his talk by describing it as a terrible day. "I suddenly realised at 3 o'clock this morning that the world got more hostile," he said. "The most powerful man in America says he needs to build a wall to keep the scary brown people out." Mr. Amici asked students to raise a hand if they aspired to be something big, and rows of them shot up in the air. But success, he said, didn't come without hard graft. There is a fee to be paid for greatness, a key to a door if you want something remarkable. You need focus, effort, and execution, he explained. He provided students with inspirational slogans for them to achieve their potential when they leave school. What you want is at the top, every day, every moment is a decision to step up or take a step down, he said. He admitted that those who were ruthless in their pursuit of success might not achieve what they really want. Make sure you get success in the right way, he advised. Speaking about the fame of being a highly paid basketball star and the decision to turn down the $20 million Lakers move, he said, There's not a day goes by where I don't think about Los Angeles, sunshine and the money. But I'm a man of principle, and there's nobody who can doubt I'm a man of my word, and at some point that counts. Sharing his sexuality with the public and coming out as gay after he had retired from the game was a decision he made after he had built up a high enough profile as a basketball player. I wanted to make sure that when I did come out, it meant something. That was the goal, he added.
Labour outcast gives charity his £609 allowance. An Enfield councillor who was expelled from the Labour Party following his second criminal conviction claims he is making amends by donating his allowance to charity. Nezami Erbil has pledged the £609 monthly allowance paid to each councillor to Citizens Advice Enfield, which offers free advice to the borough's residents on housing, employment and immigration issues. The Lower Edmonton ward councillor said he would not resign, but would carry on as an independent member until his term comes to an end in May 2018. Mr Erbil, aged 47, of Nightingale Road, Edmonton, joined the Labour Party as a teenager and has been a member for 30 years. He said, "I have decided to give my money to the disabled people and poor children of Enfield. As a councillor, lots of my residents come to me with problems about their housing, jobs and debts. This charity in Ponders End is really good. It helps people, and that's why I'm giving my money to them. I also hope it will be a signal to other councillors to do the same." In September 2014, Mr Erbil, who drives a taxi, received a 4-week prison sentence suspended for a year at Suffolk Crown Court for fraud after he was caught taking passengers across London rather than in the 4 boroughs for which he was licensed. 2 months ago, he came under fire again after receiving a suspended 6-week prison sentence at Highbury Corner Magistrates Court after he was convicted of a public order offence for allegedly swearing at an off-duty policeman who pulled him over for allegedly using a mobile phone while he was driving. Terry Neville, the leader of the Tory group on the council, made renewed calls for Mr Erbil to resign. He said, "Plainly, it does not matter what he does with the money. He is dishonest and not fit to stand as a councillor." Mr Erbil's convictions do not warrant disqualification from office under UK law, which only applies to those sentenced to 3 months or more in prison.
And now for some letters. Cynthia Davis, chairwoman of the RCN London Board, and Bernel Boussu, Regional Director of RCN London, write, 1% wage cap has cost nurses money. Nurses across London are calling on the Chancellor of the Exchequer to scrap the 1% pay cap when he delivers his autumn statement on November the 23rd. The 1% cap on pay increases for public sector workers has meant that some nurses have seen their pay fall by up to 14% in real terms since 2010. In London, NHS trusts are facing a recruitment crisis, and hospitals could soon lack the staff needed to provide safe patient care. Nurses have told us they struggle to cope on their current pay levels and feel undervalued, which leads to low morale and staff leaving the profession for good. Unless the Chancellor takes urgent steps to ensure nursing pay reflects the complexity and value of the role, the nursing profession is being led into crisis. Members of the Royal College of Nursing are calling for the Chancellor to scrap the 1% public sector pay cap for NHS staff, award NHS staff with an above-inflation pay increase, and return to a UK-wide pay rate in the NHS. If you would like to show your support for fair pay for nursing staff, visit www.rcn.org.uk/nursingcounts to find out what we are doing and to sign the petition on nursing pay. Let's tell the Chancellor that this is his opportunity to show that the government really does value nurses. Thousands of nursing staff across London are dedicated to caring for patients 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, whatever their illness or condition. Please show your support for us.
Shirley Rose and Denise Donoghue write from Hazelwood Lane, Palmer's Green. MP Burrows should offer an explanation. During the week that the majority of unaccompanied children in Calais were at last moved to hopefully safer accommodation, the British government had little to be proud of. Recently, 10 Conservative MPs signed a letter criticising the government for not doing enough to help vulnerable child refugees in Calais. The letter described the heartbreaking death of a 14-year-old boy in the migrant camp and the heartbreaking scenes of children living alone in tents at risk of losing their lives. The signatories urged the Home Secretary to do more to work with France to safeguard the rights of these children. The 10 signatories of this apparently humane letter contributed to the shameful defeat in April of the Labour Party amendment to the Immigration Bill 2016 tabled by Lord Dupps, which proposed to offer sanctuary to 3,000 unaccompanied children festering in camps in Europe. Records suggest that 8 of the letter writers voted against the amendment and 2 failed to vote. The argument that accepting children who would have reached Europe would create a pull factor for more refugees is at best flimsy and worst cruel. We would argue that in the same circumstances and when facing intolerable conditions, we too would sell our worldly goods and risk horrendous journeys in a bid to keep our children alive. The Labour amendment was defeated by just 18 votes. The UK government's failure to intervene to protect vulnerable minors has predictably contributed to the deaths of 2 children and to the widely documented physical, sexual and emotional abuse of hundreds of children who remained abandoned in the jungle. We would be very grateful to know what the government plans to do to redeem itself from this hypocritical position, and what is the Conservative Party going to do to improve its poor reputation on basic humanitarian compassion. We call on our MP, David Burrows, to explain publicly in the Enfield papers this contradictory and hypocritical position, as we feel strongly that these views and actions are not in our name. We also call on him to join the 8 London councils calling on the Home Office to provide more financial support to ensure they can properly care for unaccompanied refugee children. Hammersmith and Fulham is taking 15 unaccompanied children from the camp to be placed with existing foster families in the borough. How many children will Enfield be taking?
And a much shorter letter here from R. Vile of Queen's Avenue, Winchmore Hill, under the heading A Licence for Change. And he or she writes, now that Councillor Daniel Anderson has had his way against the wishes of the majority, perhaps he should include a cyclist's licence similar to motorists and also impose a law that head protective gear should be worn at all times, whatever the age group.
Theoclitus Andrew of Carter Hatch, Enfield, writes, so thankful for wonderful NHS. Recently, I was rushed to North Middlesex University Hospital with a heart condition. I write this letter in praise of the exceptionally swift care which I received, particularly by Dr. Florence Davenport and Dr. Nicola West, very passionate and dedicated doctors. I promised them that I would write to you and for a change offer a positive experience of our NHS. It was also interesting that they discovered a rare condition which attracted younger students to visit and examine me.
Next, a letter from Christine F. Williams of Enfield. What a sorry state this building's in. Poor old cemetery house in Church Street, Edmonton. What a decrepit state it is now in, simply being allowed to rot and decay. Rampant ivy is now claiming the roof and huge shrubs cover the lower windows. It is a disgrace that such a handsome building, an historic feature of the Edmonton landscape in a beautiful setting, has been ignored and left to deteriorate to such an extent. It is clear the council is happy to waste millions on cycle lanes that no one wants, but has no interest in preserving the borough's heritage.
And an interesting letter here from Alison Hammond of the Churchill Insurance National Lollipopper Awards 2016. In a bid to improve safety on the school crossing by deploying more lollipop men and women, time is almost up for Enfield. independent readers to nominate why their local lollipopper should get the recognition they deserve. The campaign follows research by Road Safety Analysis in 2016 that half of accidents involving a child pedestrian occur during the school run. So whilst we have been looking to improve safety on the school crossing by deploying more of these iconic crossing wardens, we also want to celebrate those who are already doing an incredible job day in, day out. We want to celebrate those lollipoppers who make a difference to parents and children every day in the following award categories. 1. Over and above. And that is the dedicated lollipopper who goes beyond the call of duty to help children, parents, their school and the local community. Category 2. Bravest. The lollipopper who has shown courage and bravery on the crossing. Super lollipopper. Category 3. Entertainer. The lollipopper who always puts a smile on everyone's face. The life and soul of the crossing. Category 4. Kindest. The lollipopper with the biggest heart. Generous, kind, caring, and always on the crossing with a smile. And finally, Category 5. Lollipopper of the Year. Now, nominations close on Thursday, November the 17th at www.churchill.com/lollipoppers/awards, after which the 5 award winners will be announced on Tuesday, November the 29th, to coincide with National Lollipopper Day.
And now for some sport. Hockey. Southgate slumped to their first defeat of the season on Saturday as they were beaten 3-2 at home by in-form Teddington in the Men's Conference East of the English Hockey League. A poor start for Southgate saw them fall 2-0 behind courtesy of goals from Andy Pett and Charlie Brooke, but Drew Birkin reduced their deficit just before the interval. Southgate then squandered several chances before Pett scored Teddington's third with 3 minutes to go, meaning that Birkin's last gap strike was scant consolation for the hosts. Southgate, who dropped to second in the table, go to West Herts on Sunday. Meanwhile, goals from Alex Fenwick and Caitlin Wales could not prevent Southgate ladies from losing 6-2 at home to Wimbledon in their Conference East clash on Saturday.
Football. Borough could earn replay after defeat in extra time. Additional 30 minutes should not have been played, Cup rules state. Enfield Borough lost 2-1 at Kensington Dragons after extra time in the Middlesex Intermediate Cup on Saturday. The score was 1-1 at full time, with Olakunle Akinwande scoring the only goal for Borough, but the club are waiting to find out why the additional 30 minutes were played. Cup rules state there should be no extra time, and the result means the game would likely have to be replayed. This result came on the back of a memorable win for Borough after they defeated Cockfosters 4-2 on penalties in the Spartan South Midlands League Challenge Trophy second round last Tuesday, following a 1-1 draw. Enfield made a good start to the Fosters game as Akinwande gained the first real chance of the half. He broke the offside trap and headed the ball past the onrushing keeper, but his effort was cleared off the line. Midway through the opening half, the hosts had a good chance when they were awarded a free kick, but the ball was blasted over the bar. There were good opportunities for both sides after the break before the deadlock was broken by the visitors. An Alfie Hatch corner was met by an in-form Solomon Wakubeki, but 10 minutes later his joy turned to misery when he received a second yellow. The hosts pushed forward and got their rewards when Borough failed to clear a corner, resulting in Cockfosters finding the equaliser. In the subsequent shootout, Romani Chitral Noble scored the winning spot kick to ensure his side progressed to the third round after Fosters missed 2 in a row. Manager Marvin Walker said, "We created some good chances even when we had 10 men, and we should have won the game in 90 minutes.
And rugby. Itoje's delight at winning big prize at World Rugby Awards. Maro Itoje expressed his delight after being named the Breakthrough Player of the Year at the World Rugby Awards in London on Sunday night. The 22-year-old lock has enjoyed a dramatic rise to the top over the last 12 months, establishing himself as a key player in the Saracens side, who won both the Aviva Premiership and European Champions Cup, and also playing a significant role in helping England to do the Grand Slam and enjoy their first ever 3-0 series whitewash in Australia. And Itoje, who saw off competition from New Zealand duo Anton Lynott-Brown and Ardi Sevilla to win the award, said, "I am very humbled, honoured and happy to win. I'd like to thank the England team and my club Saracens for all the support I've had. I hope there's more to come. I'd be disappointed if I've peaked already. The last 12 months have gone really well, so I can't complain." Itoje was also nominated for the prestigious Player of the Year award alongside Saracens teammates Owen Farrell and Billy Vunipola, but New Zealand fly half Bowden Barrett pipped them to the prize. Meanwhile, Sarries overcame a slow start to secure a 29-18 bonus point victory at home to Newcastle in the Anglo-Welsh Cup on Saturday. The hosts found themselves trailing 10-0 after 25 minutes, but a Nick Tompkins try and a penalty and conversion from Tom Whiteley brought them back on level terms by the interval. A long-range penalty from Brett Connon in the early stages of the second half saw Newcastle retake the lead, but Saracens then took control as Scott Sperling and Jared Saunders scored converted tries in quick succession before George Perkins sealed the bonus point with 10 minutes remaining. Newcastle, who had Greg Willis sent off late on for a dangerous tackle, did grab a consolation try at the death, but it made no difference to the final outcome, as Sarries claimed the win. Saracens visit Sale in the Aviva Premiership on Sunday at 2 p.m.
Olympian King clocks up 6th victory in open walk. The 90th Enfield Open 7-mile walk took place at the weekend at the Lee Valley Centre. Olympian Dominic King from Colchester Athletics Club crossed the line first in a time of 49 minutes 48 seconds. In doing so, he recorded his 6th victory in the event, matching the tally of another Olympian, Harry Churcher, who recorded his 6 either side of World War II. King's brother Daniel King took second place in 53 minutes 51 seconds, with Luc Legon representing the under-20s category, posting a new personal best of 56 minutes 15 seconds to secure third. In the women's race, Britain's rising star Emma Achurch defended the crown she won last year in 56 minutes 14 seconds, ahead of Lithuania's Neringa Aidietiti at 57 minutes 39 seconds, and Commonwealth medalist Lisa Kayler, who crossed the line in 1 hour, 1 minute and 5 seconds. The event was attended by many past winners, and speeches were made by Colin Young and 1964 silver medalist Paul Nihill. Enfield and Haringey Athletic Club's first walker to finish was John Ralph, 10th, in 1 hour, 11 minutes 56 seconds. Their world junior champion, Callum Wilkinson, was sidelined with an injury and did not walk.
Football. Town hit by trophy woe. Enfield Town bowed out of the FA Trophy in hugely disappointing fashion on Saturday as they lost 1-0 at 10-man Kings Langley in the second qualifying round. Despite being below their best throughout, Town were handed a golden opportunity to take control of the match when the hosts had Jack Patterson dismissed late in the first half. But the visitors were unable to take advantage of their extra man and paid the price late on as Jerry Amu applied the finishing touches to a swift counter-attack to bring an end to their interest in the competition. It was very frustrating, said manager Bradley Quinton. An individual error has cost us a place in the competition and cost the club some money. Sometimes playing against 10 men can be hard, but we should have seen the game out and been happy to take them back to the Queen Elizabeth Stadium for a replay. I had the boys in on Sunday to discuss what happened. We're going quite well in the league, but I've been very disappointed with our cup performances this season. Town enjoyed the majority of possession in the first half, but were unable to turn this into many clear-cut chances, although Harry Ottaway should have done better on 28 minutes when he was unable to turn to the ball into the net from close range after a Bobby Devine effort was deflected into his path. Visiting keeper Nathan MacDonald made a fine save to thwart Steve Ward before Town were handed their numerical advantage when Patterson, who had committed a succession of fouls, received his marching orders for a second bookable offence. Devine was denied by home keeper Danny Bowness, and Tyler Campbell fired over, while Mark Kirby headed against the bar as Town looked to take control of the match. However, despite Town's numerical advantage, it was the hosts who created the better chances, and David Hutton was also thwarted by the frame of the goal. MacDonald was called into action on a regular basis, making 5 saves from Hutton and Connor Toomey twice. Despite their struggles, Town still looked set to snatch a replay until they were undone in the 2nd minute of stoppage time. The visitors were awarded a free kick near the edge of the Kings Langley box, which Keir Dixon elected to play square, but his pass was intercepted and the hosts launched a counter-attack which ended with Amu firing into the net to ensure that they made progress. Enfield Town go to Havant and Waterlooville in the Ryman Premier Division on Saturday at 3 p.m. A home tie against Peterborough Sports in the FA Vase was at stake last night when Cockfosters entertained Wembley in their delayed second-round clash. The two sides had been due to play on Saturday, but the match was postponed because of a waterlogged pitch. Manager Dean Barker said, "It is a bit frustrating that the game got postponed, but as soon as we got to the ground, it was pretty obvious it was going to be called off." Cockfosters host Broxbourne Borough in the Spartan Premier Division on Saturday at 3 p.m.
And some more rugby. Under the heading, Cox, key for under-18s, youngsters win tight game. With no senior rugby at the weekend, first-team squad member George Cox donned his junior colours and played a pivotal role in Enfield Ignation's under-18s and 17s 33-24 win over Datchworth. The informed scrum half made the single biggest contribution to his side's victory after landing a try and 4 conversions for a final haul of 13 points. In what was a close game in the first half, Ignations edged 12-5 in front at the interval after James Charles latched onto a field kick and Cox's arching run from the back of the scrum. The second half remained close as both sides got points on the board, for despite breakaway efforts from Sam Jones and Nathaniel Clark, Datchworth replied in kind each time. But Jones emerged as the hero as he intercepted a pass out of the air and he tucked away the opportunity with victory guaranteed. And now a short boxing item. Nick Parper was in impressive form on Saturday night as he romped to victory over Slovakia's Mario Lakatos at York Hall in Bethnal Green. Fighting for just the second time as a professional, the cruiserweight from Palmer's Green, who learnt his trade at Edmonton Eagles Boxing Club, dominated from the start against an opponent who had won 10 of his previous 18 bouts and quickly triumphed, courtesy of a technical knockout in the second round. Following a gap of 16 months since his first fight, Parper is expected to make a much more rapid return to the ring next time around.
And now a few things of what's on. Here's a film review. Pottered history. The pixie dust may have settled on Harry Potter's cataclysmic battle with Lord Voldemort, but author J.K. Rowling isn't ready to cast an Evanesco vanishing spell on her world of warring wizards just yet. Inspired by a faux textbook written in 2001 to benefit Comic Relief, Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them is a rollicking spin-off set several decades before the escapades of the boy wizard. It's also the first film penned for the screen by Rowling, and is a surprisingly bleak affair about tolerance, prejudice and integration that strikes an ominous chord following the racially divisive rhetoric of the US presidential election. I know you have rather backwards laws about relations with non-magic people, Magizoologist Newt Scamander, or Eddie Redmayne, tells an American counterpart. Tensions between no-mags, the clunky Americanism for muggles, and spellcasting folk underpin every scene of David Yeats's visually sumptuous picture. As origin stories go, Fantastic Beasts is a crowd-pleasing doozy. Zealots called the Second Salamers, led by Mary Lou Barebone, Samantha Morton, and her adopted son Credence, Ezra Miller, preach hell and damnation in 1926 New York, following a reign of terror perpetrated by dark wizard Gellert Grindelwald, Johnny Depp. Newt arrives in the Big Apple at the height of this paranoia, carrying an enchanted suitcase with hidden pocket dimensions full of endangered critters. A nomad called Jakob Kowalski, Dan Fogler, accidentally picks up Newt's luggage and releases otherworldly species in breach of the statute of secrecy. Beasties go on the rampage, and Newt attempts to recapture them, aided by Jakob, a former Aura called Porpentina Goldstein, Catherine Waterston, and her mind-reading sister, Queenie, Alison Sudol. Percival Graves, Colin Farrell, Director of Magical Security, is convinced that Newt's illegally imported creatures are responsible for a brutal attack. He declares war on the fugitives in a city where dark forces are gathering. Redmayne is a charmingly ill-at-ease hero whose unerring dedication to creatures in his care draws fond parallels with Hagrid. The beasts are a menagerie of the weird and wondrous, including an emotionally needy woodland biped called a bowtruckle and a long-snouted burrowing mammal called a niffler.
Quaker Talk highlights battle against poverty. Innovative ways in which a faith-based charity is helping tackle poverty will be the subject of a talk in Winchmore Hill on Saturday morning. The work carried out by Quaker Social Action will be discussed by Director Judith Moran and fellow staff member Catherine Utley at the Friends Meeting House in Church Hill. Quaker Social Action campaigns for social change and has been offering practical help to the needy for more than 150 years. Some of the approaches it uses include helping people manage money to avoid ending up in debt and action to help families on low incomes meet funeral costs. Saturday's talk runs from 10:30 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. Refreshments will be provided.
And now I've got some items that are coming up. On Wednesday, Tales from Enfield History. It's the de Mandervilles, de Bowens and the Duchy of Lancaster at 40 Hall, 40 Hill, Enfield, 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. Local history guide Joe Studman returns to explore more of Enfield's rich history. Tickets are £5. If you wish to book them, it's www.40hallestate.co.uk or phone 020 8363 8196. Also on Wednesday, Adventure to Oz, Chicken Shed Theatre, Chayside, Southgate, 7 p.m. It's the world premiere of a brand new musical production featuring familiar faces including Dorothy, the Scarecrow and the Tin Man, as well as new characters such as the Patchwork Girl and Ojo the Unlucky Munchkin. Tickets are £5 to £22.50. The box office is 020 8292 9222. Then on Thursday, November the 24th, Steve Taylor's Big Band Explosion at the Dugdale Centre, London Road, Enfield Town, 7:45 p.m. UK drum ace, composer and big band leader Steve Taylor and his 16-piece band play music from their albums Good Things Happen, Live in London and their new release Hits. Tickets are £15 and the box office is 020 8807 6680.
We have reached the end of our programme for this week. Thank you for listening. So from the team of Ali, Darren and John, with Peter on the controls, it's cheerio. Please remember to turn over the address label in your postal packet. Put the memory stick into the packet and return it to us as soon as possible in readiness for the next edition. Don't forget, you can call Diana Jersey regarding any help you may require in connection with Enfield Talking Newspaper on 020 8805 6578. Coming up next, the latest news and information for the Greater London area from InfoSound. The Enfield Talking Newspaper will be with you again in 1 week's time.